point, Josh. The omnibus caps off a year of major legislative achievements for the Democrats. These are 5 of the most significant bills passed and signed into law this year. There's the Inflation Reduction Act, signed into law in August, which aims to combat climate change with nearly $370 billion earmarked for clean energy funding of cars, homes, and businesses. It seeks to lower prescription drug costs, including a $35 cap per month on insulin for Medicare beneficiaries. It also sets aside funding for communities heavily affected by climate change issues. Also, just a few days ago, the Electoral Count Reform Act was passed as part of the omnibus package, revising the 1887 Electoral Count Act to make clear the vice president cannot discount electoral votes. The bill is designed to prevent competing slates of electors and will simplify state certifications of elections. In June, the Safer Communities Act passed, thanks to significant bipartisan effort. The bill includes grants for states to incorporate red flag laws into the purchasing process of firearms. It also bolsters the background check process for 18 to 21-year-olds and attempts to close the so-called boyfriend loophole. The CHIPS and Science Act, which passed last summer, marked a huge win for the president's first term. Designed to keep America ahead of China in the global market, it invests $280 billion in American semiconductor manufacturing and research and development. It also provides tax breaks for the production of electronic chips. And earlier this month, the Respect for Marriage Act passed, signed in an emotional ceremony on the White House South Lawn. The bill forces the government and individual states to recognize legally performed same-sex marriages and to ensure full benefits regardless of the couple's sex, race, ethnicity, or national origin. And Elise, President Biden came to office and was not shy about embracing comparisons to LBJ, to FDR, with big, sweeping, ambitious legislative agendas. He, though, came into office with something they didn't have, only a very narrow advantage in Congress, and yet that's a pretty remarkable run.
President Biden maybe set expectations a little high with those comparisons, but these are some significant achievements. And I have to say that anything happened with gun control is amazing when you consider how much opposition there's been for so many years. And so just for the improved background checks to be passed, that's great. And so, Mike Barnicle, I would ask you, what do you think is the biggest achievement of the Biden administration legislatively so far?
Well, Elise, little truth in packaging here. I know the president. I like the president. That is a very significant list of accomplishments that were just listed by you and Jonathan. And I think right now the principal goal of the Biden administration is to survive the onslaught of investigations and counterattacks from the incoming Republican majority. But at the end of the day, he does all of this. He gets all of this done in addition to holding together a coalition fighting Russia in Ukraine. Those are 2 incredible accomplishments by the President of the United States. And figure out this thing. On the other side of the aisle, and we just referred to it, one of the potentially leading Republican candidates perhaps for President of the United States, the existing governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, who once presided over true incompetence in Texas and allowed the power grid to fail during the course of a very cold winter a few years ago. His idea of achievement is to bus people to Washington, D.C. in freezing weather and risk their lives standing outside the vice president's home, the vice presidential mansion on Massachusetts Avenue in Washington, D.C. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about cruelty versus competence. The Republican proven cruelty and the president's proven competence. And Josh, I'm wondering at the White House, what are they going to do you think, in terms of using this record to further enhance the achievements of the President of the United States? Do they talk about it enough internally? Are they going to talk about it enough externally?
Yeah, well, one of the things that they're particularly focused on is the fact that those legislative achievements have not been all concentrated on one narrow area where they were able to find some rare agreement with Republicans or with moderates. But instead, you look at that list that Jonathan was just laying out. You have major legislative wins on the economy with the CHIPS Act, with the Inflation Reduction Act, these massive investments in our economy. You've got the social issues. You've got the codification of gay marriage from coast to coast. You've got those steps on gun control that Elise was talking about. Then you also have democracy protection, something that has been really one of the driving causes of this administration, with those reforms to the Electoral Count Act that were just passed in the last few days. And certainly one of the ways that that has changed the conversation here at the White House is that they feel like that list has really pulled the rug out from under the kind of murmurs within the Democratic Party about whether President Biden should step aside for the 2024 race, whether he doesn't really have the juice to be able to do this again. They really feel like they are heading into this with one of the strongest Democratic records that anyone alive certainly can remember, and that they feel like that positions them to really hit the ground running in the next couple of years as they gear up for that re-election, which, of course, President Biden has not officially pulled the trigger on, but certainly everyone around him, as the president is having those discussions with his family over the holiday season, feels like it is more likely than it was a few months ago, not less likely, that the president will seek re-election, in part as a result of some of these legislative achievements and also global national security achievements, such as keeping that Russia coalition together, as you were just describing.
NBC's Josh Lederman live from the White House. Thank you, my friend, for your reporting this morning.